So I want to ask you about a report that broke this afternoon in National Public Radio. David Folkenflik reported that a former colleague at Fox told him that Hegseth got, quote, handsy repeatedly while inebriated once, even groping her bottom at a Manhattan bar. Obviously, it's an anonymous allegation. We should note that Folkenflik has been covering sexual assault and sexual harassment at Fox for years. His track record on this is pretty good, but what is your response?
See, and this is the pattern, is that we have all these anonymous complaints where people are saying things, they aren't giving any specifics, they don't have any corroboration whatsoever, and yet the people who were also there at the time are willing to come on the record by name, on camera, and say, this didn't happen. It's the same thing at CVA, it's the same thing at Fox, it's the same thing at the Veterans for Freedom. Every single one of these, you have a few anonymous people saying it, and yet the people who come on the record and say, this is my name, this never happened.
So you represented Pete, you've represented him for 8 or 9 years,
yes.
I believe, starting with the Concerned Veterans for America stuff.
Correct.
That, including the incident in 2017 in Monterey. Now, we should note that Pete acknowledges that there was a sexual encounter. He says it was consensual.
Correct.
The woman had a different story. He did pay her an undisclosed sum. And to some people out there, that might look like, well, that's guilt. That's an admission of guilt. You're his attorney. Explain why you disagree.
Sure. It could look like guilt. It could also look like an extortion. And that's the way that I saw it at the time, because this was something that was investigated by the police. The police found no basis whatsoever. In fact, one of the police officers told my investigator that before they interviewed Pete, based on the other witnesses' testimony and the video cameras, they were actually considering charging her with
making a false story? Or
no, with being the aggressor in this and taking advantage of him when he had too much to drink. And he went in and he talked to them, and of course, that kind of ended the idea of charging her. But you fast forward a few years, and all of a sudden she comes in with a lawyer saying, we're going to file this, we're going to make it public unless you pay. So, and the reality is, unfortunately, especially for public figures, during the Me Too movement, a public allegation that somebody had drugged and raped somebody, they're going to get fired immediately. Fox News isn't going to wait 2 years to find out what happens in court, any more than CNN or any other network would. He would have been fired right there.
So why do you think this is happening? Why do you think there are so many people coming out of the woodwork saying these things that have to do with either sexual or alcoholic impropriety?
This is unfortunately one of the things that has happened in this country when people are going for a confirmed position.
Well, nobody's saying this about Marco Rubio. I
mean, maybe he's going to be next. They started with they started with the Attorney General Matt Gaetz. Now they're focusing on Pete Hegseth. A lot of people, and particularly people like Pete that have lived, that have been out there. I mean, yes, Pete is not an angel. Yes, he's been out there partying a bit. He hasn't done these things. But particularly when it's somebody like him who threatens the institution, where people are afraid he might change things too much, he might stop the gravy train, he might get rid of some of the things that that people they're like, they're threatened by him. And so people will come out just as they did for Justice Kavanaugh, and you start with a few stories, and then that begins the avalanche, and so now you have all these fake stories out there. And every single one of them has a good factual defense to them, but they're hoping that by sheer volume that they could try and convince him to get out.
Is he cooperating with an FBI background check now that the Trump transition has come into this agreement with the Justice Department?
Not only is he cooperating, he can't wait to do the FBI background check. He's really looking forward to it, because he knows, as I know, that FBI investigators are professionals. They're going to go through this. They're going to not just take a few anonymous complaints and put that in the report. They're going to try and corroborate it. The FBI background check is going to exonerate him of the vast majority of these claims, and so he's very much looking forward to that.
All right, Tim, always good to see you. Thank you so much, and thanks for your time. My panel's here to discuss. Mark Caputo, let me start with you. What's your reaction to what you just heard from Tim Parlatore, Pete Hegseth's attorney? He's arguing that his client still has Trump's attention, still has the commitment to have him committed, what's the word? To have him confirmed, rather, as Secretary of Defense.
Well, I guess DC is sometimes a lunatic asylum, so it can be the same word that can be used in both contexts. But the reality is that it really only matters what the 53 Republican senators think at this point. Trump is going to stand by his nominee as long as his nominee can stand up and get the votes. That was the lesson of Matt Gaetz. That's going to be the lesson of Pete Hegseth, and that's going to be the lesson of the others. Now, at a certain point, Donald Trump is going to decide to really start to fight and really start to bend arms, twist arms, and perhaps break them. The question we have here is not only can Hegseth get the votes, but if he falls short, to what degree is Donald Trump going to spend political capital? And we don't think, at least right now, that he's willing to spend a lot. That's why he's on the phone talking to Ron DeSantis about whether he wants the job. It is pretty surprising. It kind of shocked me yesterday morning when I heard it. But that doesn't mean DeSantis is going to get the job. What it means is that Donald Trump has doubts about whether Hegseth can actually get the votes.
Gretchen Carlson, Hegseth's mom appeared on Fox News defending him this morning. This comes after the New York Times a few days ago revealed that she wrote him a really harsh email in 2018 in which she accused him of mistreating women in his personal life. This is, I think, during his second divorce. We should note that she also, in that New York Times story, also said that she, a few hours later, apologized to Pete for writing that email. Take a listen to Penelope Hegseth earlier today.
I wrote that out of love. And about 2 hours later, I retracted it with an apology email, but nobody's seen that. He's a changed man, and I just hope people will get to know who Pete is today, especially our dear female senators, that you would listen to him, listen with your heart to the truth of Pete.
So, Gretchen, you are a survivor of sexual harassment in the workplace from when you worked at Fox. What do you think when you hear her defense of her son? What do you think when you hear the allegations against Pete Hegseth?
Yeah, let me first respond, Jake, to Tim Hegseth's lawyer, because one of the really important things that nobody's talking about is that the woman in that encounter has an NDA. So people can go out and say what they want on Hegseth's side, but she can't say anything. And I think that's a really important part of this story. So if they really want to get to the truth, they should let her out of her NDA. That's point number one. Now on to the mom interview. Look, it was a softball interview that was strictly appealing to the female GOP senators, as she said. And it was a mom encounter too, because it was mom to mom. And if mom says that her child is okay, then maybe other moms will feel the same way. I don't know. I'm seeing that there's a lot of hesitation from these female GOP senators. It'll be really enlightening to see what Joni Ernst actually says. I actually think she would make a better defense secretary than Pete. But you also have Shelley Moore Capito, and you have Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski. You have now Cynthia Lummis changing her mind on this. And yesterday you had Senator Lindsey Graham, who had concerns about this as well. So in my mind, this is not about blowing up the Pentagon. There are plenty of other people that can do that. And we've named a couple on this show today: Ron DeSantis, Joni Ernst.
Yeah. Jasmine, Trump is reportedly considering Ron DeSantis, as Gretchen just alluded to, as a backup. The two, of course, were bitter rivals during the Republican presidential primaries. Do you think that this is legit, or is this like when he invited Mitt Romney to dinner that time to kind of, I guess, the belief was that they were trying to humiliate Romney as he was auditioning to be Secretary of State.
Over that stake, right? Yeah, well, I think what is true is that we know that Ron DeSantis' team has expressed interest to Trump's transition team about being available for that position, as has other people. But when I've talked to people within the transition team, they want to see senators keep an open mind about Pete Hegseth, and they want to see Pete Hegseth at least get to the confirmation process somewhere that, of course, we know Matt Gaetz didn't get to. But of course, I think all these drips of information, certainly the NPR report today, makes it that much more difficult, even though when I've talked to people since the nominee sat down with Megyn Kelly, they thought he did a good job. They thought his mom did a good job today on Fox, really trying to use that charm offensive that he's known so well for. But certainly, I think that the drip of information and as more accusations come, it makes it more difficult for him. And I know, just kind of responding back to his lawyer, of course, they can deny it. They've been really profusely saying that these things didn't happen or that there were kernels of truth. But what they can't deny is when that background check happens and what it says. Not necessarily just about the alleged behavior that he's had with women that I've heard, of course, are concerning to women senators, particularly on the GOP side. But of course, the potential that he may have a drinking problem, I think that is what is going to be kind of the nail in the coffin if it shows in the background check to be accurate from the people that I've spoken to, both in Congress and in the transition.
Jasmine, Gretchen, Mark, great to see all of you. Thank you so much.